You're not lazy, you're afraid. And the worst part, you don't even know what of. Every time you say, "I'll do it later," it feels like a small decision, harmless, temporary. But what's actually happening in that moment is deeper and far more calculated, because procrastination isn't about time, it's about emotion. You don't delay tasks because you don't care. You delay them because somewhere inside you, something doesn't feel safe, and your brain is trying to keep you away from it. Think about the last thing you procrastinated on. It wasn't something easy, was it? It wasn't something you felt completely confident doing. There was friction. Maybe it felt overwhelming. Maybe you didn't know where to start. Maybe you were afraid you'd mess it up, or worse, that you'd try your best and it still wouldn't be enough. That feeling right there, that's the real trigger. Your brain isn't wired to chase productivity. It's wired to avoid discomfort. So, the moment a task becomes emotionally charged, your brain quietly redirects you. Not with force, not with panic, but with something much more subtle. Distraction. Suddenly checking your phone feels urgent. Scrolling feels justified. Cleaning your room feels important. Even doing nothing starts to feel acceptable, and you don't question it, because it doesn't feel like avoidance. It feels like choice. But it's not. It's a controlled escape, a way to reduce the tension without solving the problem. And the more you repeat this pattern, the stronger it becomes, because your brain learns fast. It realizes that every time it avoids discomfort, you feel relief, even if it's temporary. And relief is addictive. So the next time you face that same task, the resistance shows up faster, stronger, heavier, until procrastination stops being a behavior and becomes your default response. That's why it feels so hard to break. Because you're not fighting laziness. You're fighting a system your brain built to protect you. Now here's where it gets darker, because sometimes you're not just avoiding the task. You're avoiding what the task represents. Finishing something means being judged. Starting something means risking failure. Trying means confronting the possibility that you're not as capable as you want to believe. And your brain would rather keep you in a loop of almost starting than let you face that. Because as long as you don't try, you don't have to find out. You get to stay in a safe illusion. I could do it if I wanted to. I just haven't started yet. I'll do it when the time is right. But that right time never comes, because it was never about time. It was about fear. And fear doesn't disappear on its own. It hides, it adapts, it disguises itself as logic, as comfort, as rational delay. You tell yourself you work better under pressure, that you need to feel ready, that you're waiting for motivation, but none of that is true, because motivation doesn't come before action. It comes after you push through resistance. And resistance is exactly what your brain is trying to avoid. So you stall until pressure becomes unbearable. That fear of consequences finally outweighs the fear of starting. Only then do you act. Not because you want to, but because now you have to. And your brain learns something else. That stress is the only way to get things done. So it starts repeating the cycle. Delay, avoid, escape, panic, act, relief. And then back to the beginning. But here's the part most people don't see. The longer you stay in that cycle, the more it reshapes how you see yourself. You stop trusting your own intentions. You start questioning your discipline. You tell yourself you're lazy, unfocused, inconsistent. But those aren't traits, they're consequences of a system that's been running unchecked. And the worst part? You start identifying with it. I'm just the kind of person who procrastinates. And once you believe that, you stop trying to change it, because it feels like who you are. But it's not. It's a pattern, one that was built and can be broken, but not the way you think. Because forcing yourself to just do it doesn't solve the real problem. It only creates more resistance. What actually changes the pattern is understanding what your brain is trying to protect you from. and facing that directly. Not the task, the emotion behind it, the discomfort, the uncertainty, the fear of not being enough. Because once you stop running from that, the task loses its weight. It becomes smaller, clearer, less threatening. And something shifts. You don't feel ready, you don't feel motivated, but you feel willing. And that's enough. Because action doesn't require confidence. It requires tolerance. Tolerance for discomfort, tolerance for imperfection, tolerance for the unknown. And most people never build that. They spend their lives trying to feel ready instead of learning to act while feeling uncomfortable. So they stay stuck, waiting, delaying, escaping, while telling themselves a story that keeps them safe, but small. And if you're honest, you've felt this. That moment where you know exactly what you should be doing, but something invisible is holding you back. Not physically, but mentally, like a quiet resistance you can't explain. That's not weakness. That's your brain choosing comfort over growth. And it will keep choosing it until you interrupt the pattern. Not by waiting for motivation, not by forcing discipline, but by doing something much simpler and much harder, starting before you feel ready, even when it feels wrong, even when your mind tells you to wait. Because the moment you act despite that resistance, you break the illusion. You prove to your brain that discomfort isn't danger. And once that happens, the system begins to change, slowly, quietly, but permanently. And the next time you feel that resistance, it won't control you the same way. Because now you see it. Not as a signal to stop, but as a signal that you're exactly where you need to be. Right at the edge of something that matters. And most people turn back at that edge. But you don't have to, because now you understand what's really happening. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.